Developing, initially trying to develop your concentration and to be able to keep bringing the mind back to the present moment. In focusing on the breath, to help you develop your concentration, there's a technique called counting the breaths. Some of you probably already know it or even do it, but just as a review to help concentrate. Because just kind of noticing the breath, or maybe using the notes of in out, may or may not be enough to keep your mind focused. So counting the breath is like a challenge, because we like to think we can count. So in doing that, you can count the breaths from 1 to 10, and depending on the length of the breath, there's different ways you can do it. You can simply, as you're breathing in, you can count like 1, or you can repeat the words twice if it's a slower breath. 1, 1, and on the out breath, 1, 1, or simply just repeating it 1 as you're breathing in, and 1 as you're breathing out. That means it's 1 complete breath. And then the next in breath would be 2, and then the out breath 2, and then like that you go up to 10. If you get lost somewhere in between, you're counting, 3 or 4, your mind got either distracted, or you dozed off, or you got lost in some thoughts. And then when you recognize it, if you forgot where you were, don't worry about it. You simply start again at 1. Like in Monopoly, you go back to go and start again. Now you still might have some thoughts going on in your mind, but it may not be enough to make you get lost from where you were counting, so that doesn't matter. But if you have to stop and think, where was I, then just start again at 1. Don't make it difficult. If you can make it up to 10 without getting lost, then that's pretty good in itself. But then you can start reversing the count. It's an extra challenge to kind of keep the mind clear on what it's doing. So then from 10 you could go to 9, and then 8, and back to 1. So again, this is just it's just a little kind of a game, but it's a challenge, and it can be useful for some people to help to keep you focused. If you can go up to 10 and back to 1 without getting lost, then that's good enough. And then I would recommend then just dropping the counting, and then simply be aware of in, out, out. But of course, some of you already have been practicing meditation and have some degree of concentration already. Then you don't even you don't need to do any of those sort of mental notes or counting. It's the awareness, it's the clarity of the mind that is sort of awake and feeling the process that's important, not how you are doing it. It's the awakeness of the mind. And whether you are focusing your attention on the rising and falling of the abdomen, or feeling the touch of air as it goes in and out of the nostrils, because that's one of the classic and common ways of practicing awareness of breathing, is to try to feel the subtle touch of the air as it strikes the nostrils on going in and out. But that's a very subtle sensation for most people, and it's not easy to notice, so I don't recommend it for beginners. But if you've already been doing that and you can feel that quite easily, then you can go ahead and use that as your focus of attention. But feeling the expanding and contracting sensations in the abdomen, rib cage, or the chest, those are more kind of pronounced or grosser type of sensations, so that they're usually easier to feel. Because in the beginning, you need something prominent to hold the attention, otherwise the mind will so easily get distracted and lost. But if you have difficulty feeling the breathing, then you can just use the body itself. And you can just let the mind move or float from 4 or 5 different contact points to remind you that you're sitting. You feel the buttocks touching the cushion, where the feet are crossed underneath, with a touch feeling of your hands, whether they're like this or whether they're touching your legs, the straightness of the back and the head, or some points in the head. Anything that has that's easy to notice and is of a tactile touch sensation. So either paying more attention to the breath, or paying more attention to the body, or you can even kind of go in between, because it's all happening within the same spot. You're still developing concentration, whether you're observing the breath or you're observing the posture and body points. But again, the whole purpose in all of that is it's simply the body or the breathing, the physical sensations itself are occurring within the present moment. And everything else is happening in the mind. Your thoughts, opinions, ideas, getting lost in the past, the future, restlessness, and so on. And one of the other hindrances is restlessness. This is one of the classic 5 hindrances. I mean, just the mind that kind of can't settle down. It's not necessarily disturbed by anything, but it's just kind of, it tries focusing on the nose for 2 minutes, and then no luck, and then it starts chanting a mantra. Let me chant a mantra, or let me visualize the Buddha, or then go back to watching the abdomen, or it's just jumping around. So you want to avoid that, or if that occurs, understand that that's restlessness, and just either stick primarily with your body, your breathing, or a combination of the both. But don't go on into doing other things that maybe other meditations that you practice, or whatever, because that just shows the restless mind. And so we're trying to develop to relax into the present moment. And feeling the body or the breathing doesn't require any imagination. It doesn't require any thought. It's just the pure attention in the present moment. So, again, as I mentioned before, it takes a few days for these gross hindrances to settle down. So don't be discouraged if you have total chaos in your mind or restlessness. These things it just takes time. Just sitting still, and these things will gradually calm down over time. But you have to exert some effort at it. But again, in my experience, the posture is one of the most important, the best things. If you can keep the posture straight, the breathing and meditation will kind of go by itself. But if you're battling the posture all the time, then everything gets all haywire, or it gets more difficult. So keep working with trying to notice when the chin is going down. There's also the head. Sometimes people, their head gets turned to the side because of you may have a deformed spine, and so therefore you might think that your head is straight forward, but it might be cocked off to one side, but you won't even know it. But if you open your eyes slightly, you'll be able to see whether your head is turned, and then you can mindfully bring it back to the center. So opening the eyes, this is also a question that people have: keep the eyes open or closed. If you have a lot of trouble with sleepiness, then you can try opening the eyes a little bit to allow some light to come in. That's said to could be helpful for helping to stay more awake. Although normally we recommend people to close the eyes because there's so much distraction through the eyes. The eyes is the most powerful sense. And so the tendency to want to look out the eyes is there if you keep them open. But if you're having trouble with sleepiness, you can try just opening them just a little bit, just so that your gaze would kind of fall on the ground about 6 or 8 feet in front of you, or on the back of the person's head in front of you. If your chin is parallel to the ground, and you open your eyes just slightly, then you should see the back of the person's head or their neck. If you're seeing down by their cushion or their lower back, that means definitely your chin is down too far. And so you can just mindfully take a deep breath and mindfully raise the chin back up to find that center of gravity. And when opening the eyes, if you see that your gaze is going over toward the right or the left, then you know that your head is cocked to the side, and you can bring it back to the straight position. So these are ways that you can check your posture. So go ahead and just sit straight. Sort of establish the inward curve of the lower spine. Keep the shoulders back a bit. The upper chest is open, but relax the shoulders. Just feel the body grounded to the floor. Just know that you're sitting. And take a few deep, slow breaths. And be alert for thoughts trying to sneak in the back door, to steal your attention away. From time to time, take a couple of deep, slow breaths to plug back into the body. Checking the posture.